Peace everyone, Unmasked here, and welcome back to another colored pencil project here on Patreon. Today we're starting a new project, and this one is another fish. So the last colored pencil project was a fish, and this time it's another fish. I had so much fun doing the beta fish that because of the request to do a lionfish, I decided to do a lionfish. So I found a pretty cool looking reference photo. I'm not doing any of the background or anything like that, just doing the fish, very similar to how I did the beta fish. And so yeah, the line art reference photo is attached to the post over on Patreon like normal. I have my line art laid down here on my Strathmore toned gray multimedia paper, and I am going to be using a single pencil for today. I won't be adding any color today. Essentially what I'm going to do, because of the style of this fish, because of the way the fish looks, I'm kind of taking a different approach than normal, than what perhaps other people might do when coloring this complex looking fish. So I'm going to work with two colors in the beginning, and the first color is going to be white. And essentially, any of the light areas of the fish, I am just going to be filling in with white. Hello, Marcy and Barbara. Good day to both of you. You admit that this one is intimidating. Yes. So partially my choice for choosing to use a single pencil is because I am removing the feeling of being intimidated. So I realize that this is a more complex subject than I generally do for the tutorials in any medium. And so we're going to start with one color, and that will immediately relieve you of the stress of working with colors. So just going to be using white. If you are working on white paper, which is a totally acceptable thing to do, you'll want to switch the roles, and instead of using a white pencil, just use a black pencil or a dark gray pencil. And instead of filling in the white like I'm going to do, you are going to fill in the dark and black. So that's one way you could switch that up if you're not working on gray paper. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get started in filling in. I'm gonna start in the most complicated spots and just take my time. The line art's going to save you a lot of difficulty. So think of it as just like filling in a bubble of a multiple choice question. Instead of a round circle, you're just filling in very arbitrary shapes, just very weird, interesting shapes. And yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to use our white, follow our line art, and fill in these seemingly random shapes. Hope everyone is having a great week. It's already Thursday, so tomorrow, Friday, is coming very soon to a theater near you. Hello, Hugo and Lily. One thing that I suggest with this project, if you are indeed attempting this particular fish here, I recommend going large with the line art. Don't try to go smaller because you feel intimidated by the piece. Because I'll tell you right now, even though this drawing here, I could have certainly went bigger with it, but it's a little bit bigger than my hand outstretched is the size that I'm working on. And even this size is going to be a bit of a challenge. So I recommend you spreading it out as large as you can on your piece of paper. That way you can clearly get the line art laid down and have plenty of space. It's going to make, it's going to make all these seemingly small details much larger and easier to manage. And so I recommend doing that. You're going to find it to be a lot easier to fill in the line art if it's bigger. It might take a little bit more time, which is why I'm doing it this size, so that it doesn't take the next 3 months to fill in. But I can assure you it will make your life a lot easier if you do that. And I'm going to just use a really just standard medium amount of pressure here with my colored pencil, because I don't want to cement the white to a point that I can't apply any colors over top of it. Instead, I'm just kind of looking to establish the pattern of the fish, and then that will let me come back in with my other colors and just kind of fill in the gaps in between the white. And that's just pretty much it. That's pretty much the process of simplifying this otherwise complex looking subject. So hopefully that puts a few of your minds at ease as far as attempting this, because I know you probably opened up the line art and said, oh my goodness, I am not going to be able to color that. But I can assure you, if you just follow this simple procedure, one color at a time, I promise, one simple color at a time, you will make it through this project. There's nothing like a complex subject like this to really boost your self-confidence after you complete it. I can still think back at some of the work that I originally did when I first started colored pencils, and it took me about 8 or 9 months, I'd say, for me to finally just go for it and try something that I thought for sure I'd fail at. And ironically, well, I didn't. In fact, I far exceeded my expectations of my abilities, and I never looked back. And I'd say, no matter how much time I spend working with colored pencils and doing things that I find to be difficult, I still always end up questioning myself every now and again on a project, questioning whether or not I'm capable of performing the task that I set myself out to do. And I find that the more difficulty you give yourself, the faster you progress. It's the projects that you are almost certain that you'd never be able to do that you end up just doing so well. So I think the intimidation is kind of a healthy cause for success, because you tend to put in a little bit more effort simply because you're so much more fearful of messing it up. I think doing the projects that you feel confident about perhaps make you a little bit more susceptible to overconfidence, in which you end up making small errors that you justify because the project is easy. Honestly, after we apply all this white today, I think our fish will already start to look pretty cool, you know, especially on this gray paper. You could do this on any color paper. I think a blue paper would look really cool. The reason I say that is because the blue color of the water in the reference photo is like the perfect complement to the colors of the fish. I think that's I think that's why I chose this particular reference photo of all of the other reference photos I found of the lionfish. Was that the blue and the orange complementary colors that take place? Those are my two favorite complementary colors, blue and or blue, yeah, blue and orange. You know, in the process of seeking out a good reference photo for this subject, I never knew that the lionfish was such an invasive species of fish, and that they're often over hunted to diminish the population. I guess they're a rather predatory kind of fish, and I only glanced at the information, but I believe they are damaging to coral reef habitats. So I was kind of surprised by that, you know. It's a rather cool looking, exotic looking fish, and I guess I never associated it with something negative because it was just so cool looking. But I guess it does have a little bit of a fierceness to its look, a bit of a predatory look to it, almost like an anglerfish or a piranha. Yeah, I kind of wish I had blue paper. I don't do too many I don't do too many things with colored papers. I should try to add that in the future. A little bit more work with colored paper. I think that would be kind of fun. If you guys have any questions about this project, you know, don't hesitate to ask. Since I'm only using one color, and I clearly specified the approach that I am taking here to simplify this, there's not a whole lot of things, I guess, that I need to really speak about. So if you have other burning questions about art, I'd be happy to do my best answering them. I do want to quickly mention, and I'll probably talk more about this on Monday's drawing journal, but my wife and I will be heading to the Netherlands next month. So it's still about a month away exactly, but I just wanted to give everyone the heads up. I think just miss 1 week of live streams, so nothing too damaging. This is another good project for using the brush and pencil titanium white and touch-up texture. That's certainly something that I'll be looking to use later on when finishing this project. You know, bringing out some of those really nice white highlights, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of white highlights in this fish. So, oh, hello, Helen. I have endured my hand by drawing too much. Do you mean injured? You injured your hand? So, you know, I can draw for many hours, and I never have hand or wrist pain at all. And over the years, it's not always been like that. It's kind of been a discovery of the cause, really. Even to this day, when I write, like if I write for a long time, my hand does get tired and kind of sore. But when I draw, that does not happen. So maybe I need just a little bit more practice with writing, but with drawing, it doesn't happen. And the reason it doesn't happen anymore is because the discovery that I made is that the only reason it happens, there's two causes for your hand to hurt, non-skeletal, you know. So if you have something physically wrong with your hand, I don't know if I can help you with that, but the first reason is that you grip your pencil too tightly. So no matter how soft you draw, if you are really squeezing your pencil hard with your hand, not only is it entirely unnecessary, but it will cause your hand to hurt. You know, it's kind of like forcing a cramp in your hand. So eventually that force will just begin to hurt. So learn to loosen up with your grip on your pencil. If it helps, hold your pencil back further, because then you can't grip it as tight. When you have your pencil all the way up here, it's a lot easier to like squeeze your fingers together. And really, only when you're doing details do you ever need to hold your pencil like you're writing something. Most of the time, you'll see me holding my pencil very different ways, and always loosely. I always hold my pencil loosely. And I'm always moving it. That's another thing. Don't let your hand be static. You know, don't hold your pencil like this and feel like you have to like only use the same muscles over and over again. Let the pencil move in your hand, play with it, twirl it around your fingers, do whatever you need to do to keep your hand from being static. And that will help. One of the habits that I highly recommend you always get into is constantly turning your pencil between pencil strokes. So you see me do it constantly because at this point I do it completely unconsciously because I've just trained myself to do it. Not only does it prevent you from having to sharpen your pencil as much, but it also gives you that your hand that breathing room to kind of move your fingers around, loosen them up, and not keep a static hand. Then, of course, the other reason, so that was reason number one why your hand might hurt, because you're gripping too tightly. The second, and probably the most common, I don't know which one would be more common, gripping too tight, or the second reason your hand hurts, which is pressing onto the paper too hard. You should all know my rule when it comes to colored pencils at this point. I've said it so many times. I'd be rather disappointed if you didn't know. And that is, you should never press harder than what is necessary for the color to show up. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll probably say it an infinite number more times over, my lifetime of teaching. But that is the second and probably the most common. We have this tendency to press harder because the colors don't show up as quickly as we wish them to be. And the truth is, pressing hard not only hurts your hand, but it damages the paper, preventing you from ever creating the kind of artwork that most people seek to be able to create, which is, the realism, and have like a really professional looking colored pencil piece. The reality is you have to learn the patience of allowing the color to build up over time. So you just have to relax your hand, let the paper do the work for you, because the paper, you know, certain papers are designed with more grit or more tooth, and that tooth and the pencil are designed to show up when rubbed together, because I mean that's what we do. We rub stuff on things, okay? That's what we're doing. I'm rubbing this pencil on this paper. And this pencil and this paper were both specifically designed to have that connection where I touch the paper with this pencil and the pencil shows up. And so let them do their job, okay? And don't force it, because there's no reason to. It's kind of like when you live in the city and you're driving, and every block has a stop sign, but in between stopping at the stop signs, you decide to just push your gas pedal all the way down to the floor, knowing in about 300 feet you're going to have to make another stop, which does nothing. You don't really get anywhere faster, but you do burn through your gas unnecessarily fast, or lower your battery life for my EV drivers out there. So you just have to find that balance and learn to relax your hand. It's one of the hardest things to do when you've been trained your whole life, pretty much ever since you started learning the alphabet and writing it down on paper. You've been trained your whole life to write, and if you're using the pencil, if you're using your colored pencil or your pastel pencils for that matter, the same way that you write, then you're making a mistake. Because drawing is not writing. Drawing is drawing, and writing is writing. And so you have to learn to not treat your pencils like a writing utensil, because it is a instrument of art. Not to say that a pencil for writing can't also be an instrument of art, but hopefully my analogy makes sense to all of you. Oh, hello, Bonnie. Let's see, what other white spots can I do here? Some of these white lines back here don't even really make sense to try to put in right now, because they'll be covered so easily. My problem is primary lack of patience. Yes, that makes sense, all of it. Yeah, I think, well, I'd say lack of patience is probably the number one reason people struggle with art. And especially when it comes to progressing, I'm going to continue out to some of the frilly stuff out here. I don't even, I guess they're still fins, but whatever. These parts are more blue, but I'm doing a light layer of white, so that when I lay the blue over top, it shows up a little bit easier. Like I was saying, patience is probably one of those things that hold most people back from creating wonderful pieces of art. Because the reality is, everything that I've created, everything that I've drawn, both on and off Patreon, anything that I've painted, or anything you've ever seen me do, I am I am confident to say that none of it is magnificent. None of it is like mind blowing, because the only ingredient that I've applied to any of my work is a little bit of patience. And it's only that little bit of patience that has allowed me to create anything worthwhile of looking at. And it is often the case, for me personally, that the pieces I most enjoy are the ones that I remained patient throughout the entire process. Because, even after all these years and my level-headedness in the field of patience, I often I often describe myself as the most patient person that I know. I am myself the most patient person that I've ever met. And so even I sometimes lose patience with a project. I mean, sometimes I lose patience before I even start a project. Projects that I don't even want to do, which is why I stopped doing them. Those are called commissions, if you were curious. And those projects always suffer because of my lack of patience with them. I try to rush through the parts that I don't necessarily enjoy, which is hard, because I always want to enjoy creating. And so, yeah. Truth is, even sometimes I run out of my patience a little bit. So you don't have to hold yourself to too high of a standard. You just have to be a little bit of patient. That's all. You may have said, what paper am I using? So the paper I am using is the Strathmore toned gray multimedia paper. It's the thicker one. I think 300 GSM or 250, one of those higher numbers. It's quite thick. Very, very lovely paper. Looking for a hands-free magnification option. So there's actually some really great table lamps that you clamp on, and they have like this extendable arm, very similar to like a podcast microphone stand that you would attach to a table. They're relatively cheap, and what it is, it's a crafting light that has like a big magnifying glass like this, and then it's encircled with a light that shines down, and so you can just have that propped up in front of your face, and you don't have to lean in to see anything. Artists use them all the time. Some people like to draw under them. I've never personally tried to draw under that type of lamp before, but those tabletop gamers that paint those teeny tiny little figurines, and then they play role-playing games on the tabletop. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about there. But they use those lamps all the time to paint those teeny tiny little details in their figurines. So that is definitely an option. You know, they'd be more comfortable than glasses. They'd probably be cheaper than glasses, to be honest with you. Not to mention, you'd get a great light source. What I would recommend when you look for one of those magnifying lamps, find one that has an adjustable brightness for the light, because you don't want to spend money on one of those lamps and then when you turn it on the light is way too bright, and then it washes out your entire piece of work. Because the lighting you work under, the lighting that you work under when you're drawing or painting or anything like that is incredibly important. Because if you draw under a light that's really, really yellow, what's going to end up happening is that if you were to do a portrait or something, your portrait in a neutral lighting would look blue and dead. You'd be inevitably painting a bunch of zombies if that were the case. So the lighting you work under is very, very important. So definitely put in some extra effort to finding a lamp that suits your needs there. But yeah, that's definitely an option for you. All right, let's see. Where else can I add some white here? Let's see, this little tip of the fin is a little bit lighter. I'm just kind of jumping around the place right now, finding small spots where I can just incorporate a little bit of white. Really, the hard part is done. I'd say, yeah, like I'm pretty much ready to switch colors. Just checking really quick to see what else I can do. And I'll switch to black, and then I'll start putting in just the dark shadows. So not even using color yet is just going to make this project really, really easy, to be honest with you. This project might actually end up being easier than the beta fish. If you are one of those individuals that did the beta fish project, I can honestly say that right now the beta fish was much harder. But we'll see once we get into the actual coloring. But I'm guessing that the beta fish is going to be a more difficult fish. Oh, you're welcome, Marcy. Yeah, Marcy, those are the kind of questions that, you know, I like to answer or like to, give you my best advice on, especially when I'm just, working with a white pencil and not a whole lot is going on. So I like the conversation, like the questions. My lionfish right now looks a little ghastly, like a ghost, a spirit lionfish. And just so everyone's aware, I haven't forgot about all the other really great suggestions for colored pencil and pastel projects. Now that I have this project and the pastel project well underway, and we'll be working on them for the next few weeks at the least, that will give me time to prepare for the following projects that we do. And I'm looking to certainly spice it up. I have not forgotten about the mermaid request, and I really want to do something fun with that. I'd really like to do a mermaid. I don't think I've ever drawn a mermaid before. Maybe drawn one, but I've never colored one for sure, or painted one. So I'm really kind of excited about the prospect of that project idea. So that's definitely on the list of potential projects, highly potential projects. But I'm looking to make kind of my own reference photo, which takes a bit of Photoshop skills and certainly the time involved in editing the photos together. So yeah, just be on the lookout for that project. And then for the colored pencil one, I don't know if I do I think maybe I'll just do the same project in both mediums, but I kind of like to do different projects. So I don't know. I think the mermaid project, depending on how involved I get into creating the reference photo, I might just do that in pastels because it will probably take a long time anyway, and it would take 3 times, 4 times as long if I did it in colored pencils. But yeah, I have all the requests, so I'll be working on planning the next projects very soon. If working on white paper, cream for the white. So if working on white paper, what I would recommend is not working with the white pencil for this first stage. Instead, work with the blacks. That's going to be a lot easier. Leave these white spaces for the paper to just show through, for now anyway. And what I would do is look at the picture and just color in the opposite side of the spectrum of contrast. So, I left the white blank, or I left the eye blank because it's black. And then next week, I'm going to incorporate the black into the fish. And I'm going to do a lot of the shading. So if it helps you, take the reference photo, turn it into a black and white picture, and then use your black colored pencil to fill in the really dark black spots, and then kind of feather it out a little bit. You don't want to add too much black, especially like around the orange and stuff. And but in most of the really black spots, it will be pretty obvious once you look at the reference photo as a black and white image instead. You'll know where to place the black, and that's what I would do if you're working on white paper. But other than that, I'll be using black next week, and honestly, what I'm estimating is that I'm done with the white for now. I'm just kind of doing a final pass to see where I might be able to add a little bit of extra white. And then next week I'll add the black. The following week we'll finally get into the colors, and that's where we'll add some of the blues and the greens and the pinks and the oranges and all the fun colors in the fish. I think there's a bit of brown too. But yeah, the hard part is actually over for me anyway, since I'm not working on white paper. But yeah, all the white details are in. The line art is protected, since I have the white put in there. Oh, here we go. I missed a little spot right here. So that's actually going to be it for today. Rather short and sweet. Not as complex as, the reference and the line art looked. And I just worked with one color. And yeah, just one step at a time. It will help you not feel overwhelmed or intimidated by the project. It didn't take that long, actually, which is actually kind of surprising. I thought the white was going to take longer. I only planned on doing the white today because I thought for sure it was going to take longer than this. I Now I'm kind of regretting that I didn't draw this fish bigger, because bigger is always better. But anyways, hopefully you guys had some fun on today's live stream. I'll be back on Monday for the drawing journal. I'm going to continue working on my marker portrait, and then on Tuesday we'll get back to the pastels. So I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your week and a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Take care. Peace.